Tom Curran's Patriots Talk podcast is presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into Tom Curran's Patriots Talk podcast. We have a short week, and we also have the Senator Phil Perry alongside. Phil, we're going to probably pepper the folks with a bunch of pods this week because I'm supposed to get Julian Edelman on Wednesday. We'll pump that thing out. And then we'll have an aftermath pod on Friday after the big game. How do you like that?
Big game. I like that a lot. Listen, the more pods, the better as far as I'm concerned.
Listen to me. In July of 2019, put out a poll that said, who deserves more credit for the Patriots' 2-decade run of success? Now, that was just before training camp began. The answer at that time, Bill Belichick garnering 65.1% of the vote, Tom Brady garnering 34.9% of the vote. We had 21,462 respondents. Overwhelmingly, nearly 2-1. It's been Bill, not Tom. And that was in 2019.
Whoa.
Yeah. I was stunned at that. Now, barely 5 years later, 4 and change, our friend Mike Giardi in the Boston Sports Journal writes, you know what has to happen next? Parenthetically, I say, for the 2-10 Patriots. Forget about an elegant solution. The time is now. To go on with this charade is insulting to the fan base. And if Bill wants to hold a grudge, that's on him. Mike Giardi advocating for Bill to be dismissed now during the season. And I don't think it's going to, I'm virtually certain it won't happen. But Phil, it is worth a conversation because I don't think that any coach in any sport right now, certainly in the NFL, could survive this run of misery. Could they?
I guess maybe Andy Reid could for a season, right? Maybe Pete Carroll could for a season, but it's bad. And so I understand the conversation. I still wouldn't do it because I don't really understand what it accomplishes. Are you looking to win games? Are you looking to spark the team and win a few at the end of the year? I don't think that's what you're going for right now if you're Robert Kraft. I think you're looking for a good draft pick. And secondarily, you might still be looking for a draft pick for Bill Belichick. And I know we kicked this around a lot last week on the pod. There was one scenario, and you and I have discussed it a little bit since then, that would be interesting to me if it played out. If there was some kind of bidding war, or if there were multiple teams interested in Bill Belichick and they didn't want to let him go to free agency, so they didn't want to let Robert Kraft fire him, and they offered the Patriots a pick just to make sure they got him.
Okay,
say that again. If there's a small percentage chance of that happening,
say that again. Say that whole thing again. So give me a for instance, couple teams and lay it out the timeline.
Okay, the regular season ends, and maybe even before that, both Dean Spanos and David Tepper reach out to Robert Kraft and they say, Robert, it looks like Bill's not going to be your head coach very long. Don't fire him because we want to make sure we get him. I'm willing to give you a second-round pick. That's all it would take. And then, it's not really up to Bill anymore, who's ostensibly running his next franchise and will have that kind of power. Instead of allowing him to be fired and then getting him for no trade compensation, we want Bill's rights. We don't want to have to compete with anybody else. So we'll give Robert Kraft a pick. That I could still see happening. And so I'm not firing Bill now if there's a chance to get a pretty good pick for him in a month or two.
And I like that conversation. Now, how does Bill react to that? For instance, he would then be somewhat at the mercy of what the Krafts deem to be the better deal. So is it a better situation for him? Is he amenable to that? Does he sit at the table with the Spanos family and with David Tepper and say, Spanos are just going to give me a Ford Escort and $3,000 a month, but they're going to give you a first. Meanwhile, David Tepper is going to give me $25 million and he's going to give you a third. I don't want to go there.
Yeah, I guess he could still, right? Bill still would have some leverage saying, Robert, I know you don't want me here, so I'm going to just tell you wherever you plan on trading me, I don't plan on working there. And then you have to fire me. and then I get to sign wherever I want. I guess it could it could eventually get to that point, but then we get back to that conversation of just how ugly does everybody want this to end,
Yep.
And so maybe it's a little bit quicker solution if there's an ownership conversation, owner to owner, and you're able to execute whatever it is you want to execute really quickly at season's end, because wherever Bill goes, he's going to want to get that thing started and started fast. And the Crafts, I would imagine, want to get their whole operation, head coach and front office, started quickly too.
They sure have to. And here's the other thing I'll note on that, because I don't want to dedicate the whole thing to similar conversation to what we did last week, but it's December 5th. They're playing the game December 7th, right? Yeah. The season ends January 7th. There's going to be multiple openings around the NFL. If the Patriots are an opening or not, we don't know. Where Bill Belichick lands, we don't know. There's going to be an intense amount of scrutiny and interest that's going to start to be devoted to here, because there's going to be the 14 teams or so. Is it 14? Yeah. That make the playoffs.
Right.
And then there's the 18 teams that don't, and the scrutiny that goes to the 6 or 7 that are not going. Bill is the number one non-playoff story in my estimation this offseason. So the national scrutiny is going to start to descend. You're going to get your Rappaports and your Glazers and your Schefters, who, because of relationships with front offices that we don't have because we're too close to the bone for a Bill Belichick or his minions to speak to at this point, they like to go to the bigger bugles. So we'll start to watch those, because those trumpets and bugles will be sounding with the preferences, no doubt, of Bill Belichick. Less so the Kraft family, I think. More Bill Belichick's bidding. So keep an eye on that. But you also mentioned want to get after it. And Phil, when I look at the Patriots team right now, offensively, I figured this would be a fun exercise to do. Fun, relatively speaking. How about interesting? The most chaotic offensive positions that the Patriots have entering the 2024 offseason. This is eye-popping. Yeah, you got a top 3 pick most likely. And yes, you have $100 million worth of cap space. But look at these positions and the situations the Patriots are encountering. Quarterback. Both guys stink. Zappe and Mack, neither one is a starter. You don't have one. Tight end. You do not have a starter, under contract for next year. Hunter Henry, Mike Gesicki are up. Offensive tackle. Trent Brown is up. And you literally don't have a right tackle. Offensive guard, Onwenu, is up. Strange is all set. Mafia and City So, kicking around. Moments of enthusiasm. Running back, Phil. Zeke's up. Ty Montgomery's up. Stevenson's entering the last year. And you don't have a third down back. Wide receiver. Bourne is up. Juju isn't up until 2025. He's got 12.5 in dead money next year. He's not going anywhere. And he's got a $2.7 million dead cap hit in 25 if you release him. That's still a little bit encumbering. So you're probably going to have Juju through into 2027. And then Parker has a $6.5 million cap hit the next 2 years. He's releasable after 2023, but you almost have to have him next year. So your wide receiver group is Juju, Parker, Demario Douglas, Tyquan Thornton, and Kayshon Boutte. The floor is yours.
I was waiting for you to present me with the question. So which of these, Phil,
I don't
is
have
most
one.
chaotic?
It's just,
are we ranking them? We're ranking
Yeah,
the
I'm
most chaotic
sorry. There is no
positions. That's the
question.
exercise, right? I think you wore yourself out just going through half the roster there.
I'm sorry. I did hold the ball for a while there.
The most chaotic. Can I ask you a question first?
Yeah.
About the definition of chaos. Can something be chaotic if it is made up of nothingness? Because that's the tackle position right now. You don't have one. You don't have a tackle. Calvin Anderson is under contract for next year, and I can look at Riley Reif, but does anybody believe that Riley Reif or Calvin Anderson should be starting for the Patriots at tackle? They don't have a starting tackle. That to me has to be number one, because at least at quarterback, while I would rank that their greatest need,
Yep.
at least you do have bodies. At receiver, you have bodies. At tackle, you have nothing. I don't know. Andrew Stuber, is he in the mix to start at tackle? It's just, yeah. That's the most chaotic position to me right now. It's not maybe their greatest need, but most chaotic.
Tight end is insane too. I mean, if you're Hunter Henry, do you want to come back here? You're still a pretty good player. You're going to have value around the league. Do you want to come back for what is going to be a rebuild with either a broken quarterback in Mac, a bad quarterback in Zappy, a veteran Minshew level quarterback, and a draft pick? Or do you want to say, you know what? I want to go someplace a little warmer. Get my family out of the Northeast. It's not that much fun.
Here's the thing at tight end, and I guess I just would have it down my list, even though, again, you're right. They've got nothing there. Pharaoh Brown, I believe, is up after this year as well. I believe. I'll have to double check that. It's just, compared to some of these other positions, Tom, it seems to be very unimportant relative to the others. How many good tight ends?
It's a good team problem.
How many good tight ends are even in the league right now? How many tight ends can we name if we just sat here for 10 minutes and tried to name tight ends?
I love tight ends. I think tight ends are very important. Not that you don't.
They can be great, but there's just not that many great ones out there. And so I don't think you need a very good one to be a very good offense.
Sam Laporta.
Yeah, he's a nice player. TJ Hawkinson's having a great year. George
Alton
Kittle. Love him.
Dawson Knox, the DK brothers up there in Buffalo.
Yeah. So that would probably be further down my list. I would go, here's my ranking. Ready for it?
Yeah.
It's offensive tackle, quarterback, running back. Quarterback, receiver, running back, guard, tight end.
Okay. And I'm not saying even though I mentioned tight end, I mean, when the position is absolutely void of players.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, holy
I guess that's my tackle argument. So I'd have to have it a little bit higher than that.
They're going to redo Trent Brown, though.
Think so?
I don't know. I don't want them to.
They should redo Owenu, should they not? And make him a tackle.
Yes.
Just keep him a tackle, no?
I don't know if you want to keep him a tackle, though. I mean, he's a good player. And as my buddy Pete Kendall texted me as the game goes on, Pete loves the Patriots. Pete Kendall, folks, for those of you who don't know, he's a Weymouth guy, went to Boston College. He was a first-round draft pick of the Seattle Seahawks way back when, retired about 2011. Very good player. he goes, okay, Mike Onwenu is a good guard, but you can't put him outside on Khalil Mack. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's just, so there's going to be
the one play though. Can I just say this? The one play that he got just pantsed on, it looked like he didn't hear the snap count. He was super late out of his stance.
Was that the Mack one?
Yeah, that was the Mack sack.
That basically
ran right around him and Owenu didn't touch him. I'm not saying it was good. It was not a good performance by Owenu, but that was the one play where it was like he didn't truly just purely get beat. It was like he got pantsed a little bit.
Yeah, so he's a good player. Let him dominate inside or let him be average outside. Not average, but better than average, but not great. We'll try and find a guy who plays tackle. I mean, the same thing happened with Isaiah Wynn. Folks, just remember that Isaiah Wynn made $10 million guaranteed from this team last year. $10 million guaranteed. So all of that added together, Phil, you have $100 million in cap space, but you have so many positions to fill. And we didn't even talk about the Kyle Duggar situation. Josh Uche, I think, is all but gone. He'll go someplace. Hopefully he'll flourish wherever he goes. Keon White is more their kind of guy, I think. Unless Gerard Mayo or whoever is in charge says, no, I can do some things with Uche.
Yep. I look at the $100 million that you mentioned, and I look at the offense, and I say, draft pick is going to be such that you might be able to stay cheap at quarterback. So instead of spending a boatload of cash on a Kirk Cousins, for instance, coming off of injury, I'm drafting a quarterback and I'm paying one big piece at tackle and one big piece at receiver. And then at least I feel better about those positions going into the draft. I don't feel like my hand is forced. Oh my God, we better spend a second round pick on a receiver because we really don't have one. And you panic. Get it shored up to a degree in March. And then that way, when the end of April rolls around, you're not backing yourself into a corner.
As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers Stay Hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, I call them totals, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/NSBO and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. 21 plus and present in Mass. Hope is here. First online real money wager only. $5 pregame moneyline wager required. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com, gambling helpline, mass.org, or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support. Play it smart from the start. GameSenseMA.com or call 1-800-GAM-1234. Are you leaving Mac alone and letting him begin the fourth and final year of his rookie contract, even if you intend to draft a quarterback? Because there's a lot to argue for that logic. There's value that argues for it. There's a lot that argues against it, i.e. the last 4 months. But there's a lot of sense that is made by sticking with that move. He's not your quarterback of the future anymore, but he is the placeholder.
Yeah, so I understand what you're saying. And if that's a situation that he would be open to working in, and I understand, like, you look at it and say, well, what say should he have in the matter? But you are dealing with human beings. You're dealing with relationships. If it's going to be difficult having him around in a situation where he knows he's a placeholder and he knows he's a backup in all likelihood, and that's just not going to work, then I don't see the point in keeping him. His base salary next year, Tom, is just a shade under $3 million. I'll ask you this question. Would you rather have Mac Jones, fourth year of his contract, for about $3 million, or would you rather have a free agent Jacoby Brissett as the definite number 2, as the caddy to your rookie quarterback, as your sage vet and your positive attitude, optimistic dude, great locker room presence for, it might actually be a little bit more than $3 million.
Yeah.
It might be closer to 10, but which guy would you rather have?
That's a question for Castle. I think that'd be a great question to have Castle on with next week, because he's been that guy and he's been the starter. And I wonder how you do go about it and what he would think is suitable for Mac. What's Mac capable of, just from having watched him from afar? Because what I want to do now to wrap this up is take a look at the draft and the likelihood. Because if we look at that 2021 draft, Phil, the Bears could well be jettisoning Justin Fields. The Jets are certainly trying to jettison Zach Wilson. Trey Lance has already been jettisoned. Those are the first 3 picks. Mac, he's on the launch pad. The only guy who's going to survive in his place of residence, without question, is Trevor Lawrence. That's wild. So that's why when I look at the draft, and the Patriots' schedule right now includes, I had it written down. Where'd it go? Patriots' schedule is Steelers, Chiefs, Broncos, Bills, Jets, Steelers, Chiefs, Broncos, Bills, Jets, the Panthers, who hold the number 1 overall pick, but the Bears have rights to it. The Panthers have Saints, Falcons, Packers, Jaguars, Bucks. So very similar kind of schedules between the two teams, Patriots trailing by 1 game. So if they want to get up to number 1 overall, Phil, it's there for the taking. And Carolina really has less cause to win. Would you tank?
What does that mean?
Would you try to lose a game? 10-10, 48-yard field goal attempt, 4th and 6. You say, you know what? We're going to try and convert this one. You don't try the field goal. That's just a for instance off the top of my head.
Yeah. I mean, I would not. But there's obvious merit to it. I think there is something about the integrity of the game. Didn't the Eagles go through this recently where they did something at the end of the game and the players hated it and they were pissed at Doug Peterson, and it really rankled the locker room because it was clear they knew it was in their best interests not to try to win the game, and they didn't try to win the game, and everybody knew it, and people were pissed.
Yep, let me put that in there.
And you could say, well, hey, it's worked out for them. Look at them now. They just, they just were in the Super Bowl, and they might make another one this year. And I don't even remember what that pick was. Was it to get Devontae Smith or like what?
Yeah, we're
going to
have to look at that. That's a good topic.
But that's kind of where you would be. And I just feel like I guess for nothing else other than to satisfy the football gods, Tom, I probably wouldn't do that. And I feel like a lot of times you end up with the lower pick. It's okay. It's not the worst thing in the world. The Texans, for instance, won their last game of the season last year, right? They end up with the number 2 pick. Is that karma? I don't know, but they get the better quarterback, it looks like, in CJ Stroud, and they're looking pretty good right now. So I would not do that thing that you're describing there.
All right. All that said, let's take a look quickly, and I'm going to do another one of those hold the ball for a minute situations. At quarterback, offensive line, and wide receiver, the top 10 picks in each of the last 5 drafts. Let's start at wideout for the hell of it, Phil.
Okay.
These are the guys who have been taken in the top 10. So Marvin Harrison Jr. is the wide receiver of choice. Quarterback, there are 3 options who could be top 10 choices. Offensive line, that's a Phil job. But here's your wide receivers taken in the top 10 since 2019. Drake London, Garrett Wilson. I have Kyle Pitts as a wideout because he's a hybrid. Whatever. Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Devonta Smith. 6 guys in the last 5 years have been taken in the top 10. I would only say that Drake London would be the guy who is not jumping off the page at me.
Kyle Pitts has not been a success.
But I know he will be. He's going to be a Hall of Famer.
Him, and I know he's going to be a Hall of Famer someday, according to you, but he's not been great.
I think I had Mac Jones as a Patriots Hall of Famer, too. A bold prediction. Shit. God, I've been cold.
So that to me, Tom, is a 4 out of 6 hit rate. That's what, 67%. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. And I would say Marvin Harrison has even a better chance of that. He's a much better prospect, for instance, than Drake London was coming out. Better than Garrett Wilson, better than Devontae Smith because of the physical capabilities, and Jalen Waddle as well because of the size, I would say. The only guy who maybe would have had a similar career, a breadth of work compared to Harrison, my guess would be Jamar Chase.
Okay.
And so if that's who you end up getting, that's a home run, obviously.
All right. So we look at wide receiver and say if the Patriots make that move, that's fine. Offensive line, harder to do because...
Can I just say really quickly, just 1 second? According to Dane Brugler's most recent mock draft, you and I both love Dane. He has 2 guys that play receiver in his top 10. So the other option would be LSU's Malik Neighbors, who's also just a freaky athlete, maybe not quite to the same degree as Harrison, but if they ended up trading down, for example, because they wanted extra picks, Neighbors would be a top 6 or 7 type of pick this year, probably.
And I think in an instance like that, you look at the Patriots and they look at Malik and say, won't you be? Please be my Neighbors. All right. Offensive line. Since 2019, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 guys, 9 of them taken in the top 10. Let's go inverted here. Mike McGlinchey, Quentin Nelson. Check. Both good players. Jedrick Wills, Andrew Thomas. Don't know enough. Penny Sewell.
Thomas, a good player. Wills has been, I think, a little disappointing.
Penny Sewell,
yep.
Check mark. Evan Neal, not good.
Not good.
Ikem Ekwonu.
Yep.
Has he been all right?
Icky's been okay. Yeah, he's been okay.
Darnell Wright, and Paris Johnson.
I think both those guys will end up being hits.
Okay.
Even though
so
it's
you
early
got
for them.
Evan Neal's a swing and a miss. Jedrick Wills, not as good.
Still about an 80% hit rate there, Tom, if I'm looking at it quickly, doing some math in my head.
Offensive line and wide receiver, that continue to feel that way. Do a year with Mac. Here's your quarterback situation, folks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 of them in the last 5 years. An average of 3 per year in the top 10 are going. The names. We'll go in inverted. These are top 10 picks of quarterbacks since 2019. Josh Rosen, no good. Josh Allen, good. Justin Herbert. I'm going to go numbers. Josh Allen is a 1. Excuse me, Josh Rosen is a 1. Josh Allen is a 7.8. Justin Herbert's a 6.8. Tua is a 6.8. Sam Darnold's a 1. Baker Mayfield's a 4. Daniel Jones is a 4.3. Kyler Murray is a 5.1. Joe Burrow is an 8. Trey Lance is a 1. Zach Wilson is a 1. Trevor Lawrence is a 6.2. Anthony Richardson, TBD, CJ Stroud is a 6.9. And Bryce Young is a 4. How's that?
That's a pretty good job by you. I feel like you sold Josh Allen a little bit short, but he does throw a lot of interceptions.
Well, he was early. So I didn't know what my grade scale was really like.
But still, okay, I'm looking at hits and not hits. This is to me is closer to 50%. I've got 8 out of 15 guys there I would consider hits. And that doesn't include rookie of the year Baker Mayfield. It does not include Daniel Jones. Clearly not Zach Wilson or Trey Lance. But I did include somebody like Anthony Richardson, who I thought was pretty damn good before he got hurt this year. So
do you have Kyler Murray as a hit?
I believe I do. Let me see.
I think Kyler Murray is a really good example of meh. You could get for a top 3 pick, and he was the number 1 overall pick. Trevor Lawrence is the number 1 overall pick. Joe Burrow was the number 1 overall pick. Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield.
Yep.
All number 1 overall picks. You only have a 75% rate when you have Kyler Murray in there as a meh. Well, wait a minute. And Bryce Young.
No, I included Kyler Murray, and that would make it 8 out of 15 hits. So call it 7 or 8. It's still right around. It's hovering around that 50% mark, which is obviously much lower than the numbers we just said for offensive line, which was about 80%, and receiver, which was about 70.
Look at top 2 picks: Young, Stroud, Lawrence, Wilson, Burrow, Murray, Mayfield. Expanded to 3. Darnold, and that's it. It's dicey. It's still not layups.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Never mind. I got confused. The reason Lamar Jackson's not in this conversation is because these are just top 10 selections.
It's still dicey, and that's why I make the case and the point that wideout and offensive tackle might be smarter to do, because that quarterback you take, Caleb Williams or Drake May, is going to be at the mercy of the wide receivers you have, the roster you've built. We already detailed how weak the Patriots roster is, and the offensive line you can use to protect them.
Can I just counter that by saying you're right? You're right. It also sometimes doesn't matter if you hit at offensive line. Like, how much did Quentin Nelson help the Colts do anything with the top 10 pick that was used on him?
They were pretty good. Jonathan Taylor turned into the best back in the league for a year.
But that got them 0. They've done nothing since he's been with that team. That's to me maybe the best example. That guy was supposed to be a generational Hall of Fame offensive lineman. What's it do for you? And so the risk of missing on the quarterback to me is outweighed by the reward of maybe hitting with Joe Burrow and being in the Super Bowl conversation every year.
Yeah, you want to stand there with the $5 scratch tickets and have a greater chance of getting a little payoff at 15? Or do you want to stand there and scratch the $50? And I am not a scratch ticket guy. Don't you people get the idea that I'm a big time guy with the scratchies? But it's a good point. It's scratch tickets. Yeah?
Yeah.
You like that?
Yeah, and I would say something similar, but to a lesser degree, I would say the receiver conversation is the same. You know, the reason I would say to a lesser degree is because if you can get a great receiver, I think that guy can do so much to elevate a quarterback that in today's game, I might rather have the Jamar Chase over the Penei Sewell, which was the conversation in that year's draft.
I like that.
Would you rather have Malik Neighbors? Say you're completely out of the top 3 for some reason. Would you rather have Malik Neighbors or Joe Alt? You know, those are 2 guys that might be drafted right in the same range. Joe Alt is maybe the best left tackle in this year's draft class out of Notre Dame.
That's the kind of name that goes to the Hall of Fame too, though, with Kyle Pitts.
Joe Alt.
That sounds like a Hall of Fame name.
His dad was an NFL player. John.
Doug Alt.
Is it John? No, that can't be right.
I think it was a Bear.
Let's see. I thought his dad was John. Yeah.
Doug?
Yeah, John. John, he was the 53rd.
That's what I said. Bears. Come on, be Bears.
No, wait. Let me see. Kansas City Chiefs, 84-96. Kansas City Chiefs.
Should know that.
First round pick, number 21 overall, 1984. Out of Iowa, 6'8", 298.
Speaking of Pete Kendall, we could have the Patriots hold out to get Drew Kendall in the middle of their offensive line.
Boston College, right?
Boston College center, one of the best in the country. Phil, this was a great one. Folks, we're going to put a fork in it. I got to go get ready for Quick Slants. I got a radio hit coming up. It's Phil's day off. He does this on Tuesdays. He's a good guy. He's got to get ready for the next Pats. He's probably taping some of that. But this was really kind of interesting.
Yeah, this got me thinking. So now I feel like we've got more jumping off points for when we do actually get to the draft and get to free agency. This is going to be fun off season. We're going to have fun this off season.
We're going to be busy. And we appreciate you guys being along with us. Phil and I just had a nice little side conversation, forgetting you guys were there. All right. Take care, everybody.